17th June, Fateh Khan comes out and surrenders to the Mughals. And how does he surrender? You remember that 10-year boy that he had installed on the throne? He hands over that Nizam-Shahi emperor, which is a small boy, to Khan Zaman and Mahabat Khan and surrenders. But who was sad? Shahji Raje Bhosale. His whole ambition to capture Daulatabad and Nizam Shah failed right in front of his eyes. But do you think he will stop? Namaste. Welcome to yet another episode at Itihas with Rahul in the series of videos that I have planned to explain to you the glorious story of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. In the last episode, we saw how the drama unfolded at the Daulatabad fort, resulting in a glorious victory for the Mughal side, Shah Jahan and the Subedars of Deccan, that is Mahabat Khan and his son Khan Zaman. They won and they took over control of the Daulatabad fort. They in fact even got control over the little boy who was seated as the Nizam Shah. Fateh Khan escaped this tragedy. He sided with the Mughals, he gave them tribute and he was gone. Shahji was stranded outside looking at defeat. Adilshah, the senior partner on the opposite side, siding with Shahji, and whose army was led by Randaula Khan, they also stood dejected because they lost. This is where we continue our story. Now what does Shahji do? If you remember, he had set out to actually capture Daulatabad and therefore take complete control of the Nizam Shah, right? Nizam Shah at that time was being controlled and the entire empire was being ruled by Fateh Khan. Now Fateh Khan is out of picture. Daulatabad fort, the capital of Nizam Shah, is now with the Mughals. So you know what Shahji does? He tries consolidating the small Nizam Shahi territories here and there under one umbrella, which is his own. He then takes over the complete reins of power within the little bit Nizam Shah that is left. There was one more boy of the original Nizam Shah. Shahji establishes that young boy now on the throne as namesake. Already one young boy was established by Fateh Khan and that boy was taken over by the Mughals. You remember that? Now another boy of the Nizam Shah family is installed by Shahji on the throne of Nizam Shah for namesake, and Shahji then controls whatever is left over territory of the Nizam Shah. But the capital is gone. Daulatabad fort is gone. So where does now Shahji shift the whole capital to? He shifts it to a place called as Premgiri. It's a fort, and that fort was also at that time called as Shahadurg or Shahagad. This fort is in the vicinity of this place called Sangamner near Pune. So Shahji now starts ruling from Shahagad, that is Premgiri, the remaining territory of the Nizam Shahi. When this happens, the different Nizam Shah generals who were already in charge of various territories decide to take one of the two paths. They already know that the original Nizam Shah is finished. There are some leftover crumbs which Shahji is now trying to rule. So these Nizam Shahi generals either join Shahji and help him rebuild the Nizam Shahi, or in frustration and anger, they quit and they join the Adilshahi. And when they join the Adilshahi, they take over their territories also with them and annex it to the Adilshahi kingdom. At this point, there is one very interesting Portuguese letter. As I had already told you in one of the earlier episodes, the Portuguese were already here. They were settled in Goa. Now, in the historical records found of the Portuguese, there was one viceroy named Conde de Linhares, whose diary was found. And in this diary, this Conde de Linhares, who was the viceroy of Portuguese at that time in Goa, writes, and I will read it out for you, how one of his spies got him information as to what exactly was happening in the Deccan area post the Daulatabad fort capture. It's an interesting read. It clearly mentions which forts went to Mughals, which forts were in Shahji's control, which forts were in Adilshah's control, how much revenue they were yielding. All details are given. I'll read out one excerpt from that diary. This record in his diary is dated 10th May 1634, which is almost 1 year after the Daulatabad drama unfolded. So let me read it. The viceroy writes, the Nizam Shah had 84 hill forts and 40 castles in the plain areas. The net revenue from all of them were 80 lakh pagodas per annum. Now pagodas must be some kind of a currency that the Portuguese were referring to. So 80 lakh per annum was the revenue that these 84 hill forts and 40 castles belonging to Nizam Shahi Empire at that time was yielding. So, out of these, the Mughal emperor has captured the following regions and forts. Such an interesting letter. This is being written at that time. Okay, he's writing in his diary that the Mughal emperor has captured the following regions and forts. So now he's enumerating the different hill forts and castles that the Mughal emperor has captured of the Nizamshahi territory. First, the hill fort of Daulatabad, of course, which was the capital of Nizam Shah. He's writing that Daulatabad, the capital of Nizam Shah, was taken over by the Mughal emperor. Revenue 9 lakh. Galna Fort 1 lakh. Shahgarh Fort 1 lakh. Now this Shahgarh seems to be slightly different from the Shahgarh in which Shahji had shifted the Nizam Shahi to. So Shahgarh is yielding 1 lakh. Jalnapur Castle 1 lakh. Beed Castle 3 lakhs. Neighboring castle of Kaj Dharur 1 lakh. Region and castle of Kandhar bordering the Qutub Shahi territory 3 lakhs. Varhad Desh 20 lakh. Castle of Ahmednagar 1 lakh. So you see all these different castles and forts that belong to the Nizam Shahi was taken over by the Mughal emperor. Then he writes, the viceroy of Portuguese writes, Shahji and the Nizam Shah's son Murtaza. So here you can note that this little boy whom Shahji had installed on the Nizam Shahi empire's throne, his name was Murtaza. So Shahji and Murtaza have the following. Hill Fort of Junnar, revenue 3 lakh. Shahgarh, where the Nizam Shahi prince is. He's writing this in this diary. He also knows that in Shahgarh, the Nizam Shahi prince is there. This particular fort is in control of the Nizam Shahi and therefore in control of Shahji. It is yielding 1 lakh. The entire Konkan territory is being controlled by Shahji, yielding 11 lakhs. The Nasik Triambak Fort, yielding 1 lakh. The Chambar Gonda Fort, yielding 75,000. The castle of Chakan. Chakan is another place near Pune, 1 lakh. There are other small territories in his possession that account for another 3 lakh in revenue. This is what was in control of Shahji and the Nizam Shah. Then the viceroy continues to write about Adilshah. The Adilshah has taken over the following Nizam Shahi territories. Okay, so now they're talking about the different territories that the Adilshah has taken over. Paranda Fort with a revenue of 3 lakh. Akkalkot with a revenue of 3 lakh. Pune 75,000. That means according to this letter, Pune was snatched by Adilshah under their control, yielding 75,000 per annum. Indapur 50,000. Forts and territories of a place called Nilanga 1 lakh. Konkan including Upper Chaul 3 lakhs, which means the Konkan territory that Shahji had was yielding 11 lakhs, but the Konkan territory that Adilshah was having was yielding only 3 lakhs. There are other 14 territories and forts yielding another 14 lakhs. So you see, all this was taken over and captured from the Nizam Shah. Most of this also must be because, as I told you, some Nizam Shahi officers had deflected to the Adil Shah right after the Daulatabad capture. So they also must have brought in all this to the Adil Shah. So I just read out to you an excerpt from this diary entry of this Viceroy of Goa, the Portuguese Viceroy. And from this diary, we also get another proof of all that we have been discussing till now. That yes, all of this did happen. Now, shifting our focus back on the story. Mahabat Khan and Khan Zaman, after capturing the Daulatabad fort, returned back to Burhanpur. Burhanpur is the capital of the Mughal Empire of the Deccan provinces. As I told you, Burhanpur is in Madhya Pradesh currently. So Mahabat Khan and Khan Zaman, who were the Subedars of the Mughal Deccan territory, were stationed there. So they went back to Burhanpur. Shah Jahan, who was at Agra, got very excited with this victory and he wrote back to Mahabat Khan and he told him, now that you have almost finished the Nizam Shahi, why don't you take another campaign, go more south and finish the Adil Shahi also? Mahabat Khan replies back to Shah Jahan that your intentions are very noble, and yes, we were victorious with the Daulatabad campaign, but our entire Mughal army, which is right now stationed at Burhanpur for managing the Deccan territory, this army is very tired. Who is writing this? Mahabat Khan is writing to Shah Jahan that our army, the Mughal army who is stationed there, is very tired, and if at this time I take them to attack Adil Shah, it could be a suicide mission. So I do not want to say no to you, but I do not want to take this contingent at war against the Adil Shah. I know that the Adil Shahi forces right now are completely demoralized after the loss they suffered at Daulatabad. This is the right opportune time to strike Adil Shah and finish them off, but our current army is very tired. So could you please reinforce our army by sending another fresh contingent of Mughal troops from the north to march down, come to Burhanpur, and from here we will launch a fresh expedition on Adilshah. In fact, Mahabat Khan goes one step further and writes in this letter to Shah Jahan that when you are sending this army down south, please, as the leader of this army, do send one of your sons, the prince. It will be great if one of your sons do come along with this army as the leader of this army. Together I will go along with your son and fight the Adilshah. Shah Jahan agrees. He decides to send his second son, Muhammad Shah Suja, who is the son of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal. Shah Jahan decides to send this Shah Suja down south to the Deccan with a large force to assist Mahabat Khan in capturing the Adilshah and defeating them once and for all. Shah Suja then marches down to the Deccan, comes to Burhanpur with a full army and meets Mahabat Khan. Now Mahabat Khan plays a game. It was his burning desire from many years to capture one particular fort of the Nizam-Shahi, that was the Paranda Fort. Right now the Paranda Fort was in control of the Nizam-Shahi and therefore in control of Shahji. And Shahji, as you all know, was assisted by the Adilshahi. So this Paranda Fort, which was Mahabat Khan's personal favorite, he wanted to capture that. So as soon as this fresh and strong army led by Shah Suja arrive in Burhanpur, Mahabat Khan convinces this prince, Shah Suja, that let us first go to Paranda Fort, capture it, take it under our control, and from there we will go on and march down south to Karnataka and defeat the Adilshah. Shah Suja, being a young prince, agrees, and then along with Mahabat Khan, Shah Suja takes this army and they all march towards Paranda. Paranda Fort lies in the southeastern part of Maharashtra near Solapur. So on the 20th of October 1633, Mahabat Khan and Shah Suja start their march from Burhanpur. Now remember, this is 20th of October 1633. 17th of June 1633 was when Fateh Khan had surrendered the Daulatabad fort. So 17th of June to 20th of October, it's a span of only 4 months. Within 4 months, letters were exchanged and Shah Suja was here with his army, and on 20th of October they start their march from Burhanpur to the Paranda Fort. They reach Paranda Fort on February 1634. That means this march took them 4 months to reach the Paranda Fort. As soon as they reach the fort, what do? Classic strategy. They lay siege around the fort. Now under whose control this fort is as of now? Remember, this is a Nizam-Shahi property. It therefore is controlled by Shahji, supported by Adilshahi. So as soon as this siege is set, Shahji arrives there with an army, and his army again is supported by another army led by Randaula Khan and Murar Jagdev, which means this is the Adilshahi force. So Shahji's army, in which his people are also there, the Nizam-Shahi army is also there, and the Adilshahi forces combined attack Mahabat Khan and Muhammad Shah Suja's siege, which they have laid around Paranda Fort. The attack begins on February 1634 as soon as they lay the siege. Can you see it is a repeat telecast of what happened in Daulatabad? But guess what? This time, Shahji, Randaula Khan, Murar Jagdev and this entire force are successful in defeating and breaking the siege of the Mughal army. The siege was broken on the 21st of May 1634. So February onwards they were fighting. From February to May, it took them 3 months, but in 3 months, Shahji tasted victory finally. The siege was broken and Muhammad Shah Suja, the emperor's son, the prince, was left embarrassed. He had to turn his back, and along with Mahabat Khan, they quietly go back to Burhanpur. In utter sense of disbelief and shame, Muhammad Shah Suja in fact is so dejected that he cancels all the plans of attacking Adilshah and quietly goes back with his contingent to Agra, back to the emperor. Such a humiliating defeat, and that too the prince of the emperor is involved here. It was a shame to the entire Mughal dynasty, the entire Mughal rule. This was not what they could afford at this moment. The entire rule depends on how much people fear them. If people come to know that the prince himself had come here and faced defeat at the hands of a local Maratha and few Adilshahi forces, it's such an embarrassment. Muhammad Shah Suja goes back, and guess what? Mahabat Khan, who had prompted Muhammad Shah Suja to go for this Paranda Fort instead of going to the Adilshah, Because if you remember, Muhammad Shah Suja was sent by Shah Jahan not for Paranda Fort. He was sent so that the army could then march south and capture Adilshah. It was Mahabat Khan who turned the army towards Paranda Fort. So according to the Mughal records, suddenly in the October of that same year, 1634, Mahabat Khan dies of an unknown illness. Nobody knows what exactly happened. Khan Zaman, his son, of course, continued, but Mahabat Khan dies. And Shah Jahan installs not Khan Zaman as the next Subedar of the Mughal rule there. He installs another person named Khan-e-Dauran as the Mughal Subedar instead of Mahabat Khan. This is where Mahabat Khan's story comes to an end. Now let's shift our focus down south to Karnataka within the heart of the Adilshahi capital there, Bijapur. So within Adilshahi, there is a tremendous revolt that is happening. Some internal rebellions are now threatening to destroy the entire Sultanate. Who is rebelling? And against whom? Do you remember those two loyalists of the Adilshah, Mustafa Khan and Khawas Khan? They were so loyal to the Adilshah, they had performed cruel tasks also, I told you in the earlier episodes. Now Khawas Khan and Mustafa Khan start fighting amongst each other. Mustafa Khan continues to remain loyal to the Adilshah, but Khawas Khan rebels. And when Khawas Khan rebels, he takes with him a huge contingent of army and lot of Adilshahi generals and officers along with him. And in a quick short span of time, Khawas Khan manages to kidnap Mustafa Khan and he keeps him as a prisoner in the Belgaum fort. Now Belgaum is at the border of Maharashtra and Karnataka. So Khawas Khan captures Mustafa Khan and puts him in prison in this Belgaum fort. Now that his most powerful rival is out of the way, Khawas Khan now eyes the Adilshahi throne. And to establish the same, he starts one by one picking up all the old loyalists that were loyal to the Adilshah, all the old guard. He takes them one by one and starts putting them in prison and replacing them with a new fresh guard who is loyal not exactly to Adilshah but loyal to himself, loyal to Khawas Khan. He starts replacing all the officials in top influential positions. Now this activity of Khawas Khan of course does not go down well with Muhammad Adilshah, who is the Sultan now, and his people who are loyalists to him start feeling insecure, because if Khawas Khan now sits on the throne of the Adilshah by replacing Muhammad Adilshah, they are next in line to be either killed or imprisoned because they are loyal to Muhammad Adilshah. So this insecurity starts rising within the Adilshahi kingdom, and this makes Muhammad Adilshah, the Sultan, weaker and weaker day by day. And do you know who is assisting Khawas Khan in weakening the Adilshahi empire like this? Murar Jagdev. Murar Jagdev was his lieutenant. Murar Jagdev was doing all the cruel work, all the dirty work for Khawas Khan in trying to dismantle the Adilshahi empire and take it for themselves. In fact, if any Adilshahi general or nobleman or fort commander was not listening to Khawas Khan's demands, was not surrendering and showing loyalty to Khawas Khan, Murar Jagdev would go with an army and capture that particular person and then make sure that that person surrenders to Khawas Khan by force. This was what Murar Jagdev was doing. So Khawas Khan and Murar Jagdev now become the villains within the Adilshahi Sultanate, and the Adilshahi Sultanate slowly starting to weaken. At that time, Muhammad Adilshah decides to call for help. Do you know whom he calls for help? The very powerful Adilshahi general Randaula Khan. Randaula Khan at that time was busy in wars and expeditions on the behalf of Adilshah, and at that time when this entire scene was happening at Bijapur, Randaula Khan was at Gulbarga. As soon as he receives the letter from Muhammad Adilshah asking for help, Randaula Khan takes his entire army, which is of course Adilshahi army only, and starts his march from Gulbarga to Bijapur to settle things once and for all. As Randaula Khan begins his march from Gulbarga to Bijapur, Murar Jagdev gets the news that Randaula Khan is now coming to protect the Adilshah. Murar Jagdev at that time was out of Bijapur as he had gone on an expedition to this Yadgir fort. Why was he at Yadgir Yadgir Fort because the commander of Yadgir Fort was not surrendering to Khawas Khan. So to make this person straight, Murar Jagdev had already taken an army of 10,000 soldiers, and he was at this fort when he gets the news that Randaula Khan has begun his march from Gulbarga. Now, as you have been hearing in this Shahaji story, Murar Jagdev and Randaula Khan were always on the same side. They used to fight together. But at this moment, because madness creeped into the head of Murar Jagdev, he decided to confront Randaula Khan midway before Randaula Khan's army could reach Bijapur. So Murar Jagdev takes his entire army from Yadgir Fort and confronts Randaula Khan's army midway, and a war takes place between Randaula Khan and Murar Jagdev. And Murar Jagdev was too stupid to think that he could confront an army general of Randaula Khan's stature, and in this battle, of course, Randaula Khan turns out victorious. But before he could capture Murar Jagdev, he runs for his life and he flees from that particular battleground. It is said that he ran for his life and hid in this place within Karnataka called as Dharwad. So Murar Jagdev is now incognito. Randaula Khan continues his march towards Bijapur because Khawas Khan is still active. Now something crazy is going to happen within Adilshah court in Bijapur. In this place called as Solapur in Maharashtra, there used to be a Nizam Shahi general named Siddi Raihan. Just like Malik Ambar and Fateh Khan, he was an Ethiopian warrior who had decided not to side with Shahji when Shahji was consolidating all the Nizam Shahi territories. He decided to remain independent, but independent in another sense means siding with the Adilshah. So Siddi Raihan, who did not side with Shahji, was in good terms with Adilshah. So Siddi Raihan came to know that this Khawas Khan is doing all this mischief. So you know what Siddi Raihan does? He secretly starts plotting the assassination of Khawas Khan. So let me put the story in context again. Siddi Raihan belongs to Solapur. Solapur was Nizam Shahi territory. When the Daulatabad fort incident happened, he decided not to go with Shahji, but decided to remain independent and also be in good terms with the Adilshahi. So he was a very good friend of Muhammad Adilshah. When he comes to know that there is an internal rebellion within the Adilshah led by Khawas Khan, he becomes furious and he secretly decides to plot an assassination of Khawas Khan. So one day, as Khawas Khan was walking back from the court to his house, Siddi Raihan's goons appear from nowhere and they attack him. They wound him, they stab him. But Khawas Khan manages to run away. He runs and manages to find one house. He opens the door and enters inside and hides inside that house. Siddi Raihan and his goons locate him. They break open the door, capture him and immediately behead him. Khawas Khan is dead. Siddi Raihan's assassination plot is successful. Muhammad Adilshah just got rid of his biggest competitor within the Adilshahi Sultanate. And the coincidence was, this entire event happened in broad daylight during the daytime, and by evening on the same day, Randaula Khan's entire army reaches Bijapur. But now, Randaula Khan's army has no further objective because Khawas Khan is now dead. The main villain has been beheaded. So the next day when the court commences, Muhammad Adilshah decides to honor all the people who were loyal to him and then bestows a new name to Siddi Raihan. The new name given was Ikhlas Khan. So Ikhlas Khan is the name now given by Muhammad Adilshah to Siddi Raihan in honor of his loyalty. And the immediate next step that Muhammad Adilshah takes is to free Mustafa Khan from the Belgaum fort. Mustafa Khan comes out and he is given charge of the Adilshahi Empire day-to-day affairs again. He is kept again at the helm of all the political affairs of the Adilshah. Now any guesses who must be shivering in their boots on hearing the news of the assassination of Khawas Khan? Murar Jagdev. He was hiding in Dharwad. As soon as he comes to know that his boss Khawas Khan has been executed, he now knows his time is up. He knows now that someone in Dharwad will give him up, so he flees Dharwad and runs to another place in Karnataka nearby called as Halyal. And in Halyal, he is caught by local Adilshahi officers there. He is caught alive and taken right up to Bijapur, where he is presented before Muhammad Adilshah, who then orders that Murar Jagdev's tongue must be cut off and then he must be paraded through the streets of Bijapur so that everyone knows what happens to one who rebels. to the one who is dishonest. So his tongue is cut off, he is paraded through the streets, and after the parade is over, he is also executed. This is the end of Murar Jagdev also. Now I take you to the year 1635. A very specific date, 20th September 1635. Shah Jahan, the Mughal emperor, starts feeling restless.